Welcome back to Revenge File Tales. My name isn't really my name, but for this story, you can call me Nora. I'm in my early 30s, I work a quiet office job, and I live alone in a small apartment in a big city. My life is simple on purpose. Steady paychecks, clean counters, calm evenings, the soft hum of the fridge, and the occasional siren outside my window. No drama, no chaos, no surprises. For a long time, I honestly believed that if I kept everything in my life small and controlled, I'd be safe. I was wrong. From the outside, my family looked like a picture people would envy. Holiday photos framed down the hallway. Big dinners where the table was barely visible under all the dishes. Loud laughter, overlapping conversations, promises of, we're always here for each other. The kind of family people imagine when they think of warmth and togetherness. Inside that house, though, there was a hierarchy, and I learned it very early. There was my older sister, Lena. She was the golden one, the favorite, the sun my parents orbited around. Everything seemed easier for her, or at least that's how it looked. If she messed up, it was a quirky story later. If she wanted something, it appeared as if by magic. Second car after crashing the first. Extra tutoring when classes were too hard. Excuses written for her before she even knew she needed them. She's special, they'd say. She's under a lot of pressure. Then there was me, Nora. The responsible one, the independent one, the one who never needed help. If something went wrong for me, the answer was always the same. You'll figure it out. You always do. And I did, over and over again. I paid my bills, I fixed my own problems. I kept my head down and didn't ask for much. For years, I told myself it wasn't that bad. Lots of families had favorites. Lots of parents leaned more toward one kid than another. But there's a difference between favoritism and what happened the night everything finally broke. It was Lena's graduation dinner. A big one, of course. My parents rented out a private room in a nice restaurant, the kind with dim lighting and candles on the tables and servers who refilled your water the moment you took a sip. The room buzzed with chatter. Relatives we hadn't seen in months were suddenly back in rotation, faces beaming, glasses clinking, phones held up to capture every second. Lena sat in the center of it all, glowing. New dress, hair curled just right, lashes dark and long. People leaned toward her without even realizing it, drawn into her orbit. She laughed loudly, tossed her hair back, posed for every camera like she was born for it. And maybe she was. After all, my family had spent her whole life building a stage for her to stand on. I played my usual part. Keep conversations going, smile at the right times, help pass the plates, make sure everyone's glass was full. Background support. Useful, invisible, reliable. I watched Lena, watched my parents, watched how proud they looked when they talked about her plans, her future, her bright path ahead. At the end of the meal, when the dessert plates were still scattered and coffee cups half full, my dad stood up and tapped his spoon against his glass. The room gradually quieted, the way it always did when he was about to make a speech. People turned, smiling, already raising their phones. He looked at Lena with this warm, practiced smile. "Lena," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "your mother and I are so proud of you. We wanted to give you something special to help you start your adult life on the right foot." My mother reached under the table and pulled out a large, flat envelope, the kind that can only hold something important. It was decorated with ribbons and a little bow, like it was a present in a movie. People let out little gasps and oohs, and I saw at least 3 phones recording. Lena did this soft, fake surprised laugh. "Oh my God, you guys didn't have to," she said, but her eyes were already bright and hungry, like she knew exactly what was inside. She opened the envelope slowly, savoring the moment. She slid the papers out and unfolded them. A beat passed. Then she covered her mouth with her hand and widened her eyes with this perfect staged surprise. It was a house. My parents had bought her a house. Not just promised to help her someday, not offered to co-sign. They had bought her an actual house. 3 bedrooms, a tiny backyard, in a decent neighborhood. They announced the value out loud, around $120,000, like it was a game show prize. The room erupted. Clapping, cheers, whistles. Somebody actually said, "She deserves it," out loud. Another relative wiped away tears. Phones were held up to capture Lena beaming, clutching those papers to her chest, as if she'd just received her destiny on printer paper. Lena milked it. "I can't believe this," she said, even though her smile said she could. She posed with my parents, tilted her head the right way, practiced gratitude dripping off her like glitter. And for a moment, I just watched. I think there was even a small part of me that was genuinely happy for her, even as something in my chest twisted. Then my dad turned toward me. "And for you, Nora," he said. People chuckled a little, like they already expected the punchline. My mother pulled out a much smaller envelope. She held it between two fingers, as if it weighed almost nothing. She handed it to me. I opened it. Inside was a gym membership, a glossy card with my name printed on it and the name of a fitness center not far from my apartment. "There you go," my dad said cheerfully. "So you can stay healthy. Very practical, right?" A few relatives laughed. Not the nervous kind of laugh, the entertained kind, the relieved kind, the "thank God it's not me" kind. My mom added, "You work so much, honey. This is a great way to take care of yourself. Get out, be active, you know?" Her eyes flickered over me in that way that says everything without saying anything at all. Lena leaned in, her lips close to my ear, and whispered with a little smirk, "Hey, at least you can upgrade yourself now, if you actually stick to it." I felt my face burn. The room around me blurred for a second. A weird, distant buzzing filled my ears. I stared at the little card in my hand like it might suddenly turn into something else. I wasn't angry yet. That came later. In that moment, I was humiliated. Humiliation doesn't always show on your face. Sometimes it just feels like shrinking. Like someone has put a spotlight on the gap between you and everyone else, and you suddenly realize the whole room has been aware of it longer than you have. It felt like my place had been announced as clearly as Lena's. "House for her, gym card for you." It would have been one thing if they'd done this in private. I still would have been hurt, but maybe I'd have been able to swallow it, excuse it, tell myself they didn't mean it like that. But they made a choice to perform it, to put our value difference on display for an audience. As I sat there tracing a scratch in the wood of the table with my finger, focusing on keeping my breathing steady, one thought cut through everything else. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't we didn't think about how it would look. This was deliberate, calculated. They knew exactly what they were doing. My parents had chosen, out loud, in front of everyone, who mattered more. I realized that if I stayed in their orbit the way they wanted me to, I'd spend the rest of my life being grateful for crumbs while they served feasts to my sister. I didn't flip the table. I didn't scream. I didn't give anyone the satisfaction of a dramatic scene. I pushed my chair back. I picked up my coat. My voice came out calm and almost casual when I said, "I'm heading out." My mother frowned, like I'd just committed some social crime. "Nora, at least stay for—" "I'm tired," I said. "I've got an early day tomorrow." My father barely looked up from a conversation he'd already drifted back into. Lena was absorbed in her own celebration, already planning the photos she'd post. No one followed me out. The night air hit my face like cold water. I walked to my car on autopilot, hands shaking so badly I fumbled the keys twice before I could unlock the door. I sat there for a long time, fingers gripping the steering wheel, my reflection in the windshield warped by the streetlights. Every laugh from inside replayed in my head. My dad's proud voice, the cheers, the easy acceptance from everyone there that yes, of course, this is how it should be. By the time I finally started the engine, one decision had settled, quiet and solid, in my chest. I was done pretending this was normal. Within a week, I found a small apartment. It wasn't glamorous. Old floors, small kitchen, paint that could have used a refresh. But the lease was in my name. The keys were in my hand. The space was mine. I moved without asking my parents for help, without sending them the new address, without inviting their opinions. I didn't owe them a performance. I didn't owe them an explanation. At first, the silence in that little apartment felt strange. I was so used to noise, my mother clattering in the kitchen, the TV always on, my father on the phone, Lena laughing somewhere in the house. Now it was just quiet. Me, the hum of the fridge, the occasional car passing outside. My phone buzzed constantly that first week. Calls from my mother. "Are you done being dramatic?" Voicemails from my father. "Call when you cool off." Photos from Lena, beaming in her new house, hardwood floors gleaming, windows streaming with light. "Still can't believe it's mine," her captions read. I muted the family group chat. I let the voicemails pile up. The silence went from uncomfortable to peaceful to something that felt dangerously close to healing. I settled into a routine. Work during the day, simple dinners at night. I bought a cheap plant and put it in the one sunny spot by my window. I watched it slowly turn its leaves toward the light, day after day. That silly little plant became my proof that something in my life was finally growing in the direction I chose. About a month later, late one evening, my phone lit up with Lena's name. For a second, I almost ignored it. Then my gut twisted in a way I couldn't quite explain, and I answered. What I heard wasn't the polished, breezy voice I knew. It was broken, shaking on the edge of panic. "Nora," she gasped, "please don't hang up. I messed up. I really messed up." She told me she'd gone on a trip with friends. They'd gone to a casino. She thought it would be fun, harmless. She wanted to double a little money, just for the thrill. But she didn't know when to stop. Every time she lost, she told herself she could win it back with the next hand, the next spin, the next bet. She kept going. She maxed out a card, then another. She burned through what savings she had. She made promises to herself she didn't keep. And somewhere in the middle of all that spiraling, the house, my parents' big glittering gift, became part of the disaster. She lost it. The house was gone. She cried harder when she said that part. There was real fear in her voice, real panic. "I didn't think they'd take the house," she said. I thought I'd win it all back before it got that far. I didn't mean for this to happen." I sat on the edge of my bed, phone to my ear, listening. I didn't interrupt. I didn't comfort her. I just listened, and under all the chaos of her story, one thought kept repeating in my mind like a heartbeat. This is not my fire to put out. Eventually, between gasps and sobs, Lena said, "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They don't know what to do." Of course they were. Their golden child had crashed the golden gift. The next morning, my parents started calling. Their tone was very different from the way they'd spoken to me after the graduation dinner. No more, "You're being so dramatic." No more annoyed sighs about me distancing myself. Now they were soft, sympathetic, using words like family and together and trying times. They told me Lena was struggling, that she'd made a mistake, that she was under pressure, that she was fragile right now. They said, "We can't turn on each other when things are hard. Family helps family." They said, "This isn't the time to hold grudges, Nora." Then they finally got to what they really wanted. They asked if I could help with some bills. Just for a little while, just a few payments. Just enough to stabilize things while they sorted everything out. They didn't give numbers, no specifics, just vague appeals laced with guilt. I told them I needed time to think, not about whether I could help. I work an office job, I'm not rolling in extra cash, but I'm okay. I could have scraped something together if I wanted to. I needed to think about whether I wanted to step back into the role they were trying to drag me into. The backup plan, the emergency fund they didn't have to ask permission to use, the responsible one who always figured it out, so they never had to. 2 days later, my building's buzzer rang. I hadn't given my parents or my sister my address. "Who is it?" I asked over the intercom. "It's me," Lena's voice said. "Please, Nora, just please." I let her in. When she walked up to my floor, she looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, her eyes red and puffy, makeup streaked. Her clothes were wrinkled, like she'd been wearing them for days. She carried a bag slung over one shoulder, stuffed and sagging. "I just need somewhere to crash," she said, standing in the doorway of my apartment. "Just for a night. I didn't know where else to go." I stepped aside and let her in. I'm not made of stone. She sank onto my couch like she'd been waiting to do that all day. She started talking almost immediately, words tumbling over each other. She blamed bad luck. She blamed peer pressure. She blamed our parents for pushing her too hard and making her feel like she had to live some big, dramatic life. Not once did she say, "I gambled." Not once did she say, "I chased my losses." Not once did she say, "I'm responsible." It was always something happening to her. Not something she did. She stayed that night, then another. By the third day, the desperation started to peel away, and the old entitlement began to shine through again. She ate my groceries without asking. She left her stuff scattered around. She took long showers whenever she wanted. She made little comments about my place like, "If you moved your couch there instead, it would look better." It was like my apartment had become an inconvenient motel she was tolerating until something better came along. I finally told her she needed to look for another place. Her face changed instantly. The vulnerability dropped and the sharpness came back. What am I supposed to do? She snapped. Sleep in my car? Is that what you want? My voice stayed calm. I'm sorry you're going through this, Lena, but you need to figure something out. Her eyes narrowed. Wow, you really don't care, do you? She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to make it rattle in the frame. The next morning, my mother called crying. She didn't ask me what had happened. She launched straight into accusations. How could you throw your sister out in her time of need? She's suffering, Nora. You're being cruel. My father followed up with a text reminding me how much they'd done for me when I was a kid, how much they'd sacrificed. The message ended with, "Don't you think you owe us something?" I put my phone face down and walked away from it. For the first time in my life, I chose not to immediately explain, justify, or defend myself. But then, things in my apartment started to feel strange. I'd go to grab food from the fridge and realize something I'd been saving was gone. I'd notice a blanket folded differently than I'd left it, small items slightly out of place. At first, I assumed I was just distracted, stressed, that I'd eaten the thing I was looking for and forgotten, or folded the blanket half asleep. Then, one evening, I noticed the small window in my laundry nook. It was unlatched. I never opened that window. A cold weight settled in my stomach. That night, I propped my phone up in the laundry nook, angled at the window, and set it to record. I turned out the lights and went to bed, pretending everything was normal, my heart pounding in my ears. In the morning, I checked the footage. At around 2 a.m, the dark, grainy image showed the window sliding open, inch by inch. A figure hoisted itself up and climbed through. Lena. She eased herself inside like she'd done it before. She moved through my apartment in the dark without even turning on a light, straight to the kitchen. She opened the fridge, ate standing there in the glow, rummaged around. Then she pulled one of my blankets off the back of a chair, curled up on my floor, and went to sleep. I watched it twice, 3 times. My hands shook. She hadn't just overstayed her welcome. She had crossed a line I didn't even know she'd approach. I invited her over that day. When she stepped into my apartment, she had this nervous little smile, like she could tell something was off, but hoped she could talk her way through it. I showed her the video. At first, she denied it, tried to laugh it off. "That's not me," she said, even though we both knew it was. Then she broke down, started crying, said she was ashamed, said she didn't want our parents to see how bad it had gotten. She said she assumed I wouldn't notice a little food missing, a blanket out of place. It was a flood of excuses and half apologies wrapped in self-pity. I let her talk until she ran out of words. Then I told her she had 1 hour to collect her things and leave, and that she was not to come back. Not through the door, not through the window. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Then the anger flared again. "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "You actually think you're better than me now, don't you? With your little job and your tiny apartment?" 1 hour, I repeated. She left. After that, the tone from my parents changed completely. They stopped pretending to ask. They called and texted and told relatives a version of the story where I was the villain, the cold-hearted sister who abandoned family, the ungrateful daughter who turned her back on her parents. My uncle, let's call him Uncle Ray, was the only one who reached out to ask for my side. When I told him, he listened quietly, then said, "You're not wrong, Nora. They're just not used to facing consequences." I wanted that to be the end of it. It wasn't. One Tuesday morning, a plain white envelope showed up in my mailbox. No logo, no color, just my name printed on the front in neat, impersonal letters. I opened it while standing in my kitchen, my coffee going cold beside me. Inside was a notice. According to the letter, I owed money. A lot of it. Not grocery money, not, ouch, that's annoying money. Money that could destabilize my entire life. The kind of amount that ruins credit, closes doors, and sits like a threat at the bottom of every future application. The letter listed payments that were past due. It talked about further action if the balance wasn't addressed. Legal language, cold and precise. I read it twice, heart pounding louder with every line. I don't take out loans. I avoid debt as much as I can. I pay everything on time. I build my life on boredom and predictability specifically to avoid this kind of thing. So how was I suddenly the debtor in a situation I knew nothing about? Then I saw the address associated with the account. My parents' house. Everything inside me went very, very quiet. Then the shaking started. The rest of that day was a blur of phone calls, being put on hold, transferred, repeating my information, asking for documents, taking notes, hearing phrases like opened in your name and authorized user and linked to your identity. By the time the sun went down, I knew exactly what had happened. Someone had used my personal information, my name, my social, my identity, to open a loan I had never agreed to, never even been told about. The money from that loan had gone toward household expenses and essential bills, including rent and utilities that had been helping Lena stay afloat after losing her house. They hadn't asked me. They hadn't warned me. They had made a decision. My future, my credit, my stability were acceptable collateral to protect Lena from the consequences of her actions. I drove to my parents' house that night. Walking up those familiar steps felt surreal. The porch light, the plants, the same front door I'd walked through 1,000 times as a kid. It all looked the same. It didn't feel the same. My mother opened the door. The instant she saw my face, she froze. "Nora," she said too quickly. "We weren't expecting you. You should have called." I walked past her into the living room. My father was on the couch. Lena stood near the window, arms folded, jaw tight. The TV was on mute, some show flickering unnoticed in the background. I set the letter down on the coffee table. "Explain," I said. My mother picked it up. Her eyes flicked over the words. Her mouth tightened. She looked away. "We were going to tell you," she said softly. "When?" I asked. "When collectors started calling me? When it showed up on my credit report? When it stopped me from renting anywhere new?" My father sighed like I was exhausting him. "Things got out of hand," he said. "We just needed a little time. Your sister was in trouble. We couldn't let her end up on the street." "You used my name," I said. "You used my identity. You reached into my future without even asking." Lena rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's just a loan. It'll get paid off. It's temporary." I looked at her. "You don't get to decide what's temporary in my life," I said. My mother moved like she was physically trying to place herself between me and the truth. "You know how desperate she was," she said. "What were we supposed to do? Let her suffer out there alone? Let her be homeless?" A sharp, humorless laugh escaped me. "So, instead, you decided to put me at risk?" I asked. "You decided that my stability was expendable? That I was the acceptable sacrifice? That's not fair," my father snapped. "We raised you. We gave you everything we could. Don't you think you owe us something?" There it was. The quiet contract they'd always expected me to honor, finally spoken out loud. I looked at him, really looked at him, and said very clearly, "No, I don't." The room went still. You could have heard a pin drop. I explained exactly what they had done, how this loan could damage my credit, how it could affect my ability to move, to rent, to take out anything in my own name. I told them this wasn't just a disagreement. It wasn't a family spat. It was fraud, identity theft, a crime. My mother started crying. Not the manipulative, high-drama kind, the real kind. Tears running down her face. "We didn't think you'd find out so fast," she whispered. That sentence told me everything. They weren't sorry they had done it. They were sorry I'd caught them before they could somehow sweep it under the rug. Lena snorted. "You always make everything about you," she said. "You have a good job, you live alone, you're fine. You could help, and instead you're threatening us. You're choosing not to. That's selfish." I turned back to my parents. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You are going to take responsibility for this loan. You are going to pay every cent of it. You are going to close this account and any other account that has been opened in my name without my permission. If I hear from that company again, if they contact me one more time, I am going to the police. I will file a report. I will give them everything I have. This letter, the account details, whatever they need. I will not protect you from the consequences of what you chose to do." My father stood up, his face red. "You wouldn't," he said. "I would," I replied. "And I will. And I won't lose sleep over it." No one spoke after that. I picked up my bag. I walked to the door. No one tried to stop me. No one tried to hug me. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and something inside of me closed with it. For the next 2 days, my phone was a constant vibration in my pocket. Calls, texts, long messages filled with anger, guilt, begging, accusations. I ignored them all. On the 3rd day, I got an email. The loan had been paid. The account was closed. I didn't ask whose money paid it off. I didn't answer the calls demanding gratitude. I went online and locked down my credit. I set alerts. I changed passwords. I created a version of my life where no one, especially not my family, could touch anything without my explicit permission. That night, my Uncle Ray called. "They're furious," he said. "But they're scared too. They know they crossed a line. They just don't want to admit it." "What about Lena?" I asked. "She's angry," he said. "Angry at you, angry at them, angry at herself, though she'll never say it out loud. But for the first time, she's actually stuck. There's no magic fix coming." After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment. The hum of the vent, the faint city noise outside, the soft rustle of my plants in the air current. That was all I heard. My heart was still racing, but under all that adrenaline, there was something else. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Relief. About a week later, there was a knock at my door. I checked the peephole. It was Lena. She looked tired. Not the dramatic, "I'm so exhausted" tired. The kind that sinks into your bones. Her hair hung limp, her skin dull, the sharp light in her eyes dimmed. I opened the door just enough to stand in the frame. "I just need to talk," she said. "Then talk," I said. She swallowed. "Mom and Dad, they said they can't help me anymore. They said they're done bailing me out. They told me I need to figure my life out on my own." A tiny, ironic part of me thought, "Welcome to my world." "I can't do this alone, Nora," she said. "I'm working 2 jobs. I'm exhausted. I can't keep crashing on couches. I can't keep living like this. Please, you don't understand what this is like." The truth is, I did understand. I'd been living with different kinds of consequences my whole life. I just wasn't protected from them the way she had been. "You should have thought about that before," I said. "Before the casino. Before the lying. Before climbing in through my window and eating my food and letting our parents wreck my name to save yours." She snapped back, that last spark of pride flaring. "You really think you're better than me, don't you?" "No," I said. "I think I learned faster." For a split second, something like recognition flashed in her eyes. Then it vanished. "I'm not your safety net," I said. "Not your backup plan. Not your invisible insurance policy. You are not my responsibility." She stood there, waiting for me to crack, to soften, to fold the way I always had. I didn't. She turned and walked away without another word. I closed the door. The latch clicking into place sounded like a line being drawn. Solid, final. After that, things went quiet. The loan was officially closed. My credit was locked down. No more bills or letters showed up with surprises hiding in the fine print. My parents stopped calling for help. They still talked about me, to other people, through other people, but they weren't willing to risk crossing that line again. Through Uncle Ray, I heard that Lena had moved into a tiny apartment of her own and picked up extra shifts to keep up with her bills. For the first time in her life, there was no house waiting for her, no secret account she could lean on, no parents quietly cleaning things up behind the scenes. My parents still complained about her, still complained about me. But something fundamental had changed. They weren't swooping in with a rescue anymore. Not because they'd suddenly become wise or learned some deep moral lesson, just because they'd finally run out of ways to use me to fix things. I focused on my own life. I did my job. I did it well. I got a promotion. Not some flashy CEO moment, just a solid step up. Better pay, a bit more control, enough to breathe easier. A few months later, I upgraded my apartment. Slightly bigger, more windows, more light spilling across the floor in the mornings, thicker walls that muted the city just enough. I bought a second plant for my window. I watched both of them grow. Sometimes I'd sit on my sofa, look at those 2 small patches of green reaching for the light, and think, for the first time in a long time, I am building something that is mine and only mine. My parents tried reaching out a couple of times. Short, polite messages. No apologies. Just little tests to see if the door was still as closed as the last time they checked. I didn't respond. For the first time in my life, silence wasn't something used against me. It was something I chose, a boundary I held. I wasn't waiting for them to understand me. I wasn't holding my breath for the day they'd say, "We're sorry." I'd stopped needing that. Here's what I learned. Love without limits isn't unconditional love. It's permission. Permission for people to cross your boundaries, to rewrite your decisions, to use your life as a tool for theirs. I used to think that walking away from family made you cold, heartless, a monster. But walking away didn't make me ruthless. It made me free. If you've ever had to protect yourself from the people who should have protected you, if you've ever had to say no to the ones who raised you just to save your own life, you're not alone. Your boundaries are not cruelty. Your distance is not betrayal. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is step out of the role they wrote for you and choose yourself. This was my story on Revenge File Tales. If you've lived through your own version of this, if you've been the responsible one, the scapegoat, the backup plan, share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to know they're not the only one. And if you want more stories of betrayal, consequences, and people finally taking their power back, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next tale.